You're listening to another episode of the Anna Vivo podcast. Thank you for your time.
Entirely too much dancing going on, as always with this funky music. I don't know if I'm going to change this. We'll see.
I don't think you should. I think you should keep it. It's really fun. It's peppy.
It kind of, as long as my topics are fun and uppity, then it works out. But if there's like somber topics, this could be the wrong music for it.
That's true. How to deal with grief.
Yeah, well, we did one with my parents when they got back from Tahiti and their massive accident. And
yeah, that's intense.
The intro to this music, I was like, how do I make this sound not uppity? Because this is a really serious, somber situation. So anyway, that's not today. Today we are talking specifically for sellers, which I'm excited to have back on the air this week. Rachel Bennett of Coldwell Banker, awesome mother, wonderful wife, woman of God, great friend, and importantly in this context, licensed real estate broker at Coldwell Banker, and having a great time and super professional and just does a great job in her business. So I'm excited to bring her expertise in on this as we discuss now for sellers specifically, how do we prepare our property, land, home, whatever it is, in a seller context and irrespective of geographic bounds. So this isn't related to just Washington State where we are. This is related for across the United States. What are some things to really, you want to sell your property or you're even considering selling your property or even reasons to sell your property? How do we do all of that? If you haven't listened to the last episode, it was on how to find a real estate broker. So we're not going to touch on that a whole lot other than to say, because you may not have listened to that one, that there is no such thing as a listing agent or a buyer's agent specifically. Now, there are agents that fill those roles and act in that, whether they're on a team and maybe the team leader is acts as a listing agent, and a lot of their younger agents typically act as a buyer's agent, and that helps them get around things like dual agency requirements or helps them facilitate and keep commission in-house and things like that. There's different aspects or reasons for that and growth and, for good or for bad. But in the United States, there are no licensed only buyer's agents or licensed only listing agents. Everybody is licensed to perform as a real estate agent or broker or realtor in a capacity for either the sale of your property or the buying, representing buyers. And so when we talk today for sellers, we are talking about listing agents. And so when we say listing agents, just know that we're not meaning someone who's licensed as a listing agent. We're just talking about the person, in this case, acting as your fiduciary for the sale of your property. So, Rachel, first question.
All right. Well,
unless you wanted to had something you wanted to say on that before I jumped in.
No, you're great. This is awesome.
Okay. So first question is, why would I even want to sell my property? I have property. It's land or a home, and I've got it now for a year. I've had it maybe for 30 years. What are some reasons to even wanting to sell my property versus just hanging on to it and continuing to rent it out and making money that way, or letting it build equity if it's not being used to rent or to lease out for, farm animals on my land or whatever. Yeah. Like, why do I even want to sell at all?
You might not want to. I have talked several clients out of selling when it wouldn't be actually the best thing for them.
Because you're a great broker and you have a mindset of abundance, not a mindset of scarcity. That's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So first off, if a client calls me up, as many of them do, hey, we've owned this house now for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. We're seeing homes in our area sell for this amount. What do you think I could get what could I get for my house? Like, let's start this conversation. So, we schedule a meeting. I do a little walkthrough, see their updates. I prepare a complimentary CMA, which is a market analysis of their home, which tells them a range of what I could sell their home for if we were to list it right now today.
Right.
And that, depending on those numbers and what they would make at the end of the sale, they may decide, yes, let's sell. The market drastically grew and I can make 30 grand on my house that I barely owned for a year.
Right.
Or maybe they wouldn't make 30 grand. Maybe it would be, we could get you out from under it, but you're not going to have any equity. You're not going to have any money to roll into another sale. So maybe they will decide to rent it out instead of selling it at this point.
Sure. Yeah.
Or maybe they bought when the market was crazy high and we've had a little bit of a downturn where they cannot sell it yet.
Right.
And they need to actually pay it down a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So those are great reasons on why they may not want to sell. Now for reasons why they might want to sell.
So if you have owned the property long enough, if the market is in a healthy seller's market condition, despite not having it very long, it is a great time to sell your home because you can get money from that sale to either pour into a new home, build your equity and wealth into a higher, more valuable property that will bring more in as an investment. There's also the hey, you're leaving the area. You want to free up your VA. You're a military personnel and you want to be able to purchase with a zero down VA home loan in another state. You may have to sell this one here in order to do that.
Right.
So even if you are looking at it from a perspective of I'll break even or I'll make X dollars amount, it's a great time to sell that home to be able to purchase something in the local area that you want to live in. So you don't have to go through a conventional loan program or be stuck renting instead of owning your own investment. So that is another reason why a lot of people sell. Another reason somebody may sell is that you've owned this home for 30 years. It has been your home, but now it's too much for you. If it's a multi-level home and you're having a hard time getting around, it is a great time to sell your home and be able to either pay cash for a smaller home that you can live out your days with way less of a, burden on your shoulders for maintenance. Also, it maybe will be what will pay your way into a retirement facility or senior community where you can just live the sweet life and go golfing and go for walks and walk the beach and just have a carefree end of days. Live out your sunset years, somebody has referred to it as before. And I liked that perspective. It's not the end, it's the beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
So
those are some good reasons. Yeah, so everybody has their own reasons for wanting to sell. If you're not considering selling, you're listening to a podcast for sellers or an episode for sellers. If you're not considering selling, some of the reasons that you may not have also thought about are tax implications or benefits or 1031 exchanges, which are things we specialize in. And so being able to defer your capital gains tax by rolling property value into another property or multiple properties or different types of properties. We just had somebody buy a golf course that was from residential to golf course and qualified for tax 31. So there's a variety of different reasons you may want to sell. Maybe you want to split it into an inheritance for multiple children, multiple heirs, and you don't want them having to deal with one property. And so you want to downsize one into 3 properties or even into a trust or, different things like that. Whatever the reason is, the point is there are multiple reasons people want to sell. And then comes the question, do I do this on my own or do I use a real estate agent? Now listen to the end of the last episode we just did on how to find a real estate agent or broker. We talked about that. We talked about for sale by owner and why it's a great idea. And we also talked about for sale by owner and why it's not a great idea. And we talked about from buyer's perspective and from seller's perspective. So we're not going to rehash that. But let's say you've decided to go with the real estate broker now. And let's say you listen to the last episode and you figure out how to find that real estate broker. Great. You got the real estate broker. You're ready to go. A question for you, Rachel. When do I, as a client, actually have to pay you? For instance, you mentioned walking through my house. You mentioned calling you up to ask you about how the market's doing, doing a CMA, a comparative market analysis for me. Am I paying you for these things? Like, what is the cost in all of that? And how far out can I do that? What if I don't want to sell until next year because of the economy or whatever?
Yeah, I get it. That is a great question. We, as real estate professionals, are paid through commissions, compensation paid out of the net proceeds from the sale of your home. You pay us at closing until the job is done and you have either successfully sold your property, or if you're a represented buyer, which we'll talk about on the buyer side, successfully bought the property. That is when real estate brokers are paid.
Right.
You do not pay me for individual services. I'm not legally allowed to accept compensation for any of the services I provide for you. It has to be vetted through the title and escrow companies, paid to my firm, where they then disperse my portion of that compensation.
What about CMAs? Now, you are authorized to get paid for CMAs still through your firm sometimes. Yes. And there's instances where even nationally, you can get paid to do a professional CMA.
Yeah, there's broker price opinions.
Yeah, broker price opinions, what they're called, and they're around $250 or so, and they'll get you a really involved market analysis of your home.
Yes, that's not related to selling, thankfully, so you don't have to worry about that, sellers, of having that. I will not charge you for a broker price opinion.
But let's say I'm like 3 years out and I'm thinking, I really want to know. You'll still give that to me for free?
Of course.
Oh, nice.
It's building that relationship for the future.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're not planning to sell for 3 years, the data I give you today is not going to be the same data I will give you in 3 years. Let's hope.
Right.
Because that means our market would have stayed a steady, stagnant pace versus growing. We want to see growth.
Right.
In all hope, the numbers I give you today would be better numbers in 3 years.
Right. So all of that to say, listeners, if you are considering selling a property for whatever reason you have personally, it's okay to, one, shop around and find your agent and do what we talked about in the last episode to find your agent. And after you have that agent and you've built that relationship, you're not signing paperwork. You're not paying anything. You are asking them, and it's part of our relationship building, to be advisors for you on the value of your property and all the different questions that go with that. Hey, what about the lending process? What about title and escrow? What about how to use this for the process for the deed or transferring the deed? How to find great referral partners that are contractors to come in and fix this portion of the home or whatever. Like all of those questions should be run through your representative, your broker, who is going to facilitate those relationships for you. It's why you will hopefully pay them in the future. And in that note, if you already have a family member or a friend or another agent you've used before and like and trust, don't be a dirtbag and shop around to other agents asking them to perform work for you in hopes of either A, not bothering the agent you're already in a relationship with, or two, in taking advantage of other relationships. I don't know how many people that I have personally witnessed, Rachel has witnessed, that have come into a brokerage office physically or called in and said, hey, I need this done and I needed it yesterday or whatever. And those should be, for any of agents listening, all of those kinds of things should always be red flags anyway. And there's a whole nother episode we could do on setting healthy boundaries and running your business like a business and having regular hours and having steps in place that will self-vet these questions, like asking that client if they are already working with someone. And so there should be those checks and balances. However, on the client side, you're listening right now, please know that it's, number one, okay to ask your agent, or if you don't have one and you're just starting off, to ask them to perform all of these services. It's totally okay. That's expected. We're not going to charge you for it. We're not, we shouldn't be pressuring you into wanting to sell. Oh, I'll tell you what you want to hear. And so that kind of goes into the second question here. I, as a client, Rachel, have decided now, okay, I want to sell my home. The CMA you gave me, or the information you provided me, was really helpful. And it looks like I've got a lot of equity in my property, in this land or the home or commercial strip mall, whatever it is. I want to make the deal. I want to make it happen. At what point do we sign paperwork with you establishing an agency relationship between you and myself?
Well, here in Washington State, it is within 30 days of listing your property that we sign our listing agreement, where we have legally binding terms. Now, let's say we sign it and we get delayed. We amend the agreement.
Yeah, a tree falls on my home. We can't list yet.
Suddenly,
that's okay, right?
Well, it's not okay that the tree fell on your home, but it's okay for us to amend the agreement.
To extend the agreement? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Or if your house is not ready to list, you thought you were going to get those projects done that you wanted to be able to get a higher value for your home or appeal to more buyers, and suddenly you're like, oh no, the paint is not done, it's halfway done.
Sure, any number of life problems happen.
All sorts of things. Or we're not packed up enough to to feel comfortable with people coming through the home,
Right.
we need a couple more weeks.
Right.
We just make the amendments. We make those changes.
Yeah.
But the plan is, all right, around the 30-day mark, we have our first listing agreement signed.
And it's okay. We mentioned this in the last episode. It's okay if during that process I find out that I really don't like you.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, and I can just terminate that.
Well, yes, you can.
Okay.
I
And
have
you-
yet
and
to
you-
have that happen, but it
yeah,
is
you're a
possible.
likable person. I know. Well, I'm just
It's
hypothetically.
okay though, because
It's okay for a client to fire their agent.
It is.
You listeners are the ones hiring us as the broker. Just like you would interview your doctor or a lawyer or any other professional, you have the right to retain us for business. You also have the right to remove us from the
Yes.
business relationship, and vice versa.
yes,
I know plenty of agents, myself included, who have had to let clients go for one reason or another, and that is also okay. So
It is okay.
It's a mutual relationship that we're working under, even though we're signing paperwork. Now, there are some nuances that we won't get into because this is not a legal advising hotline
No.
that we're discussing. But if you're already under contract, for example, and you decide to fire your agent or something, you may still owe them compensation
Yes.
for their work. And so there's different caveats to all of that. However, generally speaking, you are in a mutually agreeable relationship, and you're not all of these pre-work services, doing the CMA, finding out what's worth. It's okay to call your agent and call them, and they should be okay with taking your call if it's a respectable hour, or text message or email, and getting back to you with answers, and doing so for free in the hopes that you are going to retain them for services and helping them sell their property later on.
it's part of earning your business.
It's part of earning your business and building that trust relationship. And in the same vein, listeners, like I mentioned, don't take advantage of that. If you really intend to use this person, it's okay to not. Like we just mentioned, any number of life reasons come up, and it's like, oh, Tim, we can't sell anymore. We need to do this. Or Rachel, we got to get out of this. Like, hey, totally understand. At the same time, make sure that when you are ready, you're ready, and you're going to use this person, and they have we as brokers have a fiduciary requirement, a loyalty requirement by law to you. Yours is not to us, but it should be, as just a point of ethics and a point of working with a professional that you want to be on the same page with you anyway. This is a place that is probably emotionally attached to you traditionally in a selling capacity. Little Timmy took his first steps in your home. There's a lot of emotions that go on. You want somebody that you can trust managing all of that, not just the financial asset of the property, but the emotions, the work involved, the different vendors coming in and out of the home, and through the whole buying process, working with the buyers as well. So there's a lot of mutual respect that needs to happen
Definitely.
in all of this. So Rachel,
Yes.
I've decided as a client that I like what you said about my CMA, the comparative market analysis. My home looks like it's got, or my land has good value in it. I'm ready to sell. Now I'm signing the contract with you. Let's take a moment here and say, is it okay for me to interview multiple agents to list my property?
Prior to signing a contract with me, yes.
Okay.
Or you need to cancel my contract
Yeah.
and then interview other agents.
So
Once we have a contract signed between us, until it is canceled,
you are
other
representing me.
agents?
Yeah.
it would be against, I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can talk to whoever you want. But when you have a legally binding contract with me, other agents can get in trouble for talking to you.
Right.
So to protect other people in this industry and to protect other people in your community, it is best to work with the contract that you have. Now, if you haven't signed that contract yet, you might have it in your email waiting just to click away,
Yeah.
and something is telling you to pause,
Yeah.
listen to that and think about it a little bit more. Maybe call up the agent that you're hesitating with and talk to them about what concerns you might have.
Right.
So it's very common when you're making this huge decision, potentially the biggest financial decision you had made in your life so far,
Right.
to have some second guesses and some hesitancy. And the agent, you may feel like it's the agent that's the problem, but really it's just nerves, and they need to walk you through that.
Right.
It is on the top 3 most stressful things you can do in your lifetime.
That's true.
buying and selling homes.
Right.
The other is getting married and getting divorced. So that tells you it's pretty big.
Yeah. So definitely it's okay to shop around. And as we mentioned in the last episode of how to find an agent, if you're not using the method we told you about in the last one, which is using a previous agent or our company Anavivo to help you find that agent, if you're truly just starting from scratch and have no idea where to go and you're just Googling 3 different people, definitely shop around and interview them if that's what you feel is the most comfortable for you. However, shameless plug, as mentioned in the last one, if you don't know an agent already that you've used before and know, like, and trust, just give us a call. It's free. You can email me, tim.c.miller@outlook.com. We find you an agent in wherever you are in the United States that is actually a professional, that is ethical. We're paid by that agent, so it's incentivized for us as well to do a great job. And it matches their niche, their specialty of whatever they qualify for and whatever you're looking for. So it's a win for them as well. And so you should already be well connected and trusting of the agent you're working with. But to back this all up, if you're not, it's okay to shop around and look for agents. But I want to make a very strong point here. And I know you, Rachel, have run into this multiple times as someone who does a lot of business. When clients are looking for listing agents and they are shopping and they're not just using someone they've built an established relationship with, how often do you see them going with a listing agent that gives them a value for their property that is less than what another agent has given them? Probably very little.
Yes, probably very little. Which, I mean, there's different listing strategies. If I'm in a competitive situation with you, I might not tell you the value for your home until we have decided to work exclusively with each other.
But Rachel, I need to know that to determine if you're the one I want to go with.
You don't, though, because what is more important than the value I'm going to tell you your home might get you is the value of how I'm going to fight for you in the process and how I'm going to represent you. Because you, as the seller, get to pick your price.
Right.
I will give you recommendations.
Yeah.
Other people will give you recommendations, and they're probably all going to be within 10 grand of each other.
Sure.
If we have good comparable properties to choose from.
Yeah.
Or somebody might be lying to you about the value of your home. If somebody comes in saying
There
your home is
it
worth
is.
$500,000 and it's really only worth $400,000, is it going to help you at all to list your house 100 grand above value?
Right.
Because that agent said so. No.
Yeah.
That is not doing you any services.
Right.
It is much more important for me to show you my ethics and values as a real estate professional and let us come together on the right marketing plan and list plan for your home.
Right.
We will come to the numbers.
Yeah.
Also, those numbers can change. If we are having the CMA conversation a couple months before we actually plan to list your home, those numbers are going to change drastically because each season hits with new comparable properties to choose
where
from.
you are in the United States and what the rates are doing.
Exactly.
And all that. Yeah.
When interest rates rose drastically last year, home prices did not keep going 100 grand. Homes were not selling 100 grand over list price suddenly. When interest rates were crazy low, people did not care what they bought a house for.
Yeah.
The rate was low enough. The monthly payment was where they needed it to be. It didn't matter to them.
Sure.
Now, every dollar too high on a list price is impacting your mortgage payment right now.
Right.
That's going to get better.
Yeah.
We're already seeing those interest rates dropping. So sellers, don't be too worried about not getting top dollar for your home. We just might need to have a different strategy than what we did last year.
Right. And the takeaway from all this is you are investing in a relationship with the broker that is representing you, not just on the sale of your property here, but also potentially going forward in multiple other transactions. And even if you plan on moving and or selling your property and going to Portugal or leaving the country and you think, I'll never work with this person again, that person, she's still involved in your life from a relational standpoint, protecting you from buyer issues that may have come after the sale of your home, reminding you for next year's taxes on, where your master settlement statement is, all these different things that are part of that relationship. And so, as you mentioned, Rachel, you want to be investing in you, in this relationship with you, not the number, because the number changes. I don't know how many times I've walked away from clients and had to let them go because of, or been fired by clients because they thought, oh, Tim, your number's too low. This other agent told me I could sell it for 100 grand more or 50 grand more or whatever. And the honest truth is, if this was 20 years ago and we were all using paper MLSs and the agents had the book of knowledge that could determine that kind of stuff, sure, that might be true because nobody knows, right? And it's totally up to what that agent's saying. But how many sources do we have to find online the actual value of your property? How many times has your property already been assessed by the government at different levels of value, which isn't market value, but is at, comparable levels or even comparable to appraisal levels? Or how many sources do we have to find market value, which is again, its own value in of itself, that are transparent, that are equitable among all real estate brokers from any other firm, that are oftentimes very automated. And so the whole point of market value is it is what buyers will pay for your property. If some agent is coming in and telling you that they can do it for this much more, they better be offering you to buy you out, which we do have. We do have companies that go around to usually city places, not remote places, and they pay cash for homes. And they do that. They'll come and they'll come with an offer right there, and they'll say, hey, we'll buy your, Zillow did this a couple years ago. They did this big, we'll try to buy all of your homes. We're paying you cash to buy your homes. And there was this big push for the iBuying program in Zillow to do this, to buy all your homes up for cash so that they could control a portion of the inventory, which would then allow them to turn around and sell them at limited quantities, of course, increasing the prices, right? And so there's, ethics aside, if that's the case, if somebody's coming to you with a real offer and saying, I will pay you 100 grand more, by all means, great, take it. But if you're interviewing, the whole point of this conversation is if you're interviewing agents because you don't already have an agent that you know, like, or trust from other sources, if you're in a position and you find yourself Googling somebody and not knowing anybody and not calling a company like ours that does it for you for free, and you're doing this on your own to find 3 different agents and you're looking at them and you're going to go with the one that gives you the highest price only, that's wrong. Don't do that. If they're also a great person and you match and they're going to give you all these other services and, oh, by the way, they're saying they can get you a higher price, great, that's fine. But if they're trying to win, there's so many agents that go around to listing appointments trying to win over the seller based on the price that they're telling them they can sell your home for. Oh, Tim told you it would only go for $650,000. I'll sell it for $800,000. Okay, then I'm going with you. And what happens 6 months later?
They better be able to back that up with some seriously good comps.
And it's never happened because our comps are so transparent and we all have access to the same data. And we do this full time. I don't know how many times we've mentioned this. We're full-time brokers, right? And so we have our finger on the pulse in whatever the local industry is you're looking at. It's not that you as a client are incapable. That's what you're paying us for, though. So if you are capable, don't use us. That goes back to the for sale by owner. I would much rather you do this on your own. If you are someone who enjoys the paperwork, can do it, all that stuff, sure, it's going to save you a lot of money from our compensation fees or from potentially other fees. But using a real estate broker, you're paying them. You better be using someone then who's a professional who does this full time and trust in their advice and trust that they can do this for you. Every time that somebody's come to either of us to say, oh, I had so-and-so and they promised me this and it hasn't, it's still sitting on the market. Well, it's because they oversold you to try to win that contract.
Yes, I have looked at friends the friends who have several real estate broker friends, and
it's hard to choose. Yeah.
It is hard to choose. And so there's times when I've sat back and said, you know what, I'm here rooting for you. Yeah. And there's times when they have been overpromised because I don't overpromise. I look at the data, I share with them the data, and I'm going to say, this is a range that I think we can get for you today. One of the awesome things about being in a seller's market is the buyers are out there. Mm-hmm. If you under market your house, there's a very strong likelihood the buyers will push it if it's a desirable property to where it needs to go.
That's market value. Yeah.
And so you don't have to worry about us listing too low and you leaving too much money on the table when you have somebody who's knowledgeable there. I'm not going to undersell your house to try to get multiple offers either. Some people will do that where they'll list it crazy low for the hope of getting a bidding war going. That's miserable. You don't want that. You don't want 20 good offers on the table and maybe a few great ones. You just want a few or one great offer.
Right.
But if the market hasn't caught up to where the buyer's value is, and we say, okay, the comps are here. Yes, I might see buyers willing to spend $100,000 more than where my comps are telling us.
Yeah.
But I cannot put an appraisal in front of you with that number yet. So
Right.
I have to work for you where I know it's going to get a buyer and it's going to pass an appraiser.
Right.
Which is a whole nother, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But so I have multiple facets and avenues I have to consider when I am putting a price in front of you. And I'm not going to put a hard dollar in front of you. I'm going to give you a range. Hey, on the low end, this is where the low end comparable properties are saying your home is worth. And then here's the higher end where your home might be worth.
Right.
Maybe you're going to want to go on the high end and just see and have some wiggle room if it doesn't sell right away. Maybe you're going to want to go right there in the middle because you look at all the pictures and you go, okay, that house has these finishes. This one's on a corner lot. Mine's not. Mine has these finishes. Let's go right under it here because this feels like a fair value.
Right.
Or you might be like, nope, let's do the low and see if we get a bidding war. And I will say, all right, buckle up because it's going to be crazy.
Well, and it's important to note here again, our compensation, if you're a traditional real estate broker in the U.S., your compensation is entirely tied to how high the property sells. So it's in your best interest, you, the real estate agent, and you, the seller, to have someone who's professional and will do this with you because they're going to fight for that height as well. So if somebody is coming over and saying, hey, I can sell it for even more, be skeptical and trust that the agent that you like that's a professional and is going to work well with you is also going to get you to where as high as possible. No agent in their right mind is going to sell it lower for you just because they want to.
No.
Every agent is.
We want you to get top dollar for your home, so we get top dollar on our commission.
And to point out, a great point you brought up, Rachel, the market itself will adjust that price. That's why it's called market value. There are buyers out there. You may have been a buyer. You were a buyer if you own property, unless you inherited it or something. But all the buyers are out there on the fence looking for X number of properties or this type of property. When your home hits the market, when your land hits the market, when your commercial property hits the market, the buyers, anybody out there who is in that market, that local geographic market, that unique property type market, that price range market, any buyer who's ready to buy will then see it, come to the market table and bid for it to the appropriate spot to where it is worth. And that may mean your property sits on the market for an extended period of time because it's listed too high. Or if there's multiple offers right away, it's going to move it up to where it should be. And that is the true market value of your home. And the agent who's representing you has access to all of that data and more that you do. It goes back to also that we do this full time. If you're really going to pay us to represent you, trust us. If you don't trust us, let us go. Find a different broker or do it yourself.
Find someone you trust.
Right. Find someone you trust because they'll say, oh, my neighbor just sold her house and she got this amount, so that's what I want. And can we use it as a comparable property? Maybe. But
depends.
We know the answer to that more so than the client. The client will give us their opinion, which we take because we're representing our client, but we have the science, we have the data. That's why we're paid this to work for us. Let us work for you.
We're not doing you any favors by blowing smoke up your.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got access to that data. We do this comparable market analysis. And the other part of this, before we move on to the next topic here, is that the automated versions of these are taking all of the comparable properties in a square mile radius or circle mile radius, and then dividing it by the square footage and coming up with an estimate or a zestimate or whatever, and they'll call it. So
a lot of lenders are using the same technology to send you out your market updates.
Updates for your property, yeah. And so is it a ballpark? Yeah, it's in a ballpark. But some reasons it may it most likely is not, is because it's a circle. It's a circle drawn around all 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 2-bath houses in 25 square miles. It's saying, what did they all sell for in the last month? Divide that by square footage. That is a good ballpark. But if you're somewhere like us on an island that's an hour long and 10 minutes wide, that 25-mile circle hits Seattle and Bellevue.
Not to
and
mention all
also
the waterfront properties on our
and the
island.
waterfront properties, let alone the interior island properties. Or if you're in Issaquah and you're not on an island, but you're backed up to the Cascade Mountain Range and you're getting all the cabins included or the multi-million-dollar view homes included with the downtown homes or whatever, so
that's going to throw off your data by maybe $100,000.
And even if you're in I don't know, 25 miles of just the same exact cookie cutter homes, is your home the same exact as all those other homes?
I hope not.
Probably not on the inside at least. And those automated valuations are not taking into consideration the landscaping you've provided. They're not taking into consideration the interior of your home that you've upgraded or haven't upgraded.
The condition of the materials in it. Have your dogs chewed everything up, or is it immaculate?
Right. And that's where your agent and the person doing the walkthrough of your actual home will have the leg up on your property. So
we've had a wonderful few years where our market has been a little bit insane, where sellers have been able to throw a number at a dartboard and list their property and sell for bananas. But now we are in a little bit different time where we are going to have to fight for you a little bit more. Our interest rates have knocked a lot of buyers out of the crazy zone, which is great. We needed a little bit of a shift. Now we need to come back to a little bit more of a reasonable and realistic place where selling list price and selling price might not be the exact same price. You still might get more than your list price for your home, depending on, how many people want your home.
Right.
If you have a desirable home, you still might get multiple offers. It's still happening.
Right.
But it's also not uncommon right now to have a home sit a little while. So having a market expert who can set your expectations where they should be of, hey, things are not flying off overnight. You're actually more than likely going to have a few weeks on the market, maybe even a few months before we start seeing the serious level of activity of a person putting in an offer. It does not mean your home will not sell. It doesn't mean you're going to get dirt cheap offers. It just means that buyers are being a little bit more cautious. A lot of them are waiting out interest rates a little bit. The problem with buyers waiting out interest rates is your home might become even more valuable if those rates drop. So don't be too afraid of your home sitting on the market for a little while if the rates are coming down as they currently are, because that just means that you are going to have more people approved for your home as those rates come down. So it doesn't have to be all black skies and clouds. There's some good stuff ahead of us. So we might have to be more patient.
Yeah, and we're so thankful for you as listeners tuning into all of this, because only you know the reason you're selling, and only you have the heart and the emotions tied to that particular property. And so when you're hiring a professional like Rachel and you're doing this, you're not only trusting her with all of the business acumen of this, and the financial strategies and all of these things that she's, just mentioning about the rates and things that are pertinent to, this week right now or this month even. But when it comes to the timing of it all and trusting your advisor like her, it comes into the emotional side of it as well. And there's a lot to be said for now. Okay, I'm not just hiring a professional to make me a lot of money or to help me navigate the sale and the strategies and the market. There's a lot to be said for managing and caring and actually having compassion for you as a person, you as a family, you as a loved one who has lost a loved one and dealing with an estate sale now, or whatever the case is. There's so many emotions tied to this. And so really, I think the big takeaway that I want to just underscore here is using someone that you get along with, someone that loves you and that wants to care for you as a person and keep a relationship with you well before the transaction begins and well after the transaction begins. And if you're hesitant about calling that person, or you're worried that you're going to waste their time or that they're going to charge you or treat you like a number, then let's find someone else, because that's the end goal here. Is this isn't a car sale? It's not 20 minutes, and it's not a black and white lawyer sit down, closed and shut case. There's a lot of different things that go on involved in the sale of a property, especially a home. Land can be different. Commercial can be more cold in ways,
Yes.
but a home, that's your life, right? That's what
Yes.
it's all about. At the end of the day, all of our memories are made, for better or for worse, in a home. And so
Yes.
representing divorce cases, representing deaths, representing good memories, and all of these things is all part of Rachel's job.
Yes.
In this case. And she's great at it. And there's so many brokers out there that are wonderful at it. And so you need to be comfortable. You need to know, like, and trust this person that is going to represent you as a person. And in the same vein, you don't want someone that's just nice. You need someone
No.
who knows what they're doing, right? Like we can
Yes.
speak to our faith side of things here
Yes.
as Christ followers. It can be really easy to say, "Oh, I hope that they find someone else who's a Christian, because theoretically they'll be ethical." But how many times have you run into, or have I run into, and our listeners run into people that are just unfortunately hypocritical in that mindset, and maybe great people, but not great real estate agents.
That's that is so hard. It is really hard. And I mean, I can tell you, it's, as somebody who has a lot of friends in the community, and a lot of those friends have real estate broker friends or connections.
Right.
It can be a bit of a gut punch when they don't want to work with their friend. And, it can be devastating. And so it's like putting yourself out of the scenario and saying, okay, for some reason, they didn't have peace with this, and I'm okay with that. The
Yeah.
Lord is leading them to somebody else, and you still come alongside them as just their friend in the process. I've done that recently with somebody, and it was an intense thing to walk through with them, not being a part of their transaction, because it was
'Cause you
painful,
know what you would
and
do.
I wanted to save them from all of the stress and the pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I wasn't a part of that in the professional mindset of it, but I did get to come alongside as the friend.
Yeah.
And I got to be there as the friend and the cheerleader and the encourager.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I got to be that role, because it's hard to decide who to work with sometime when you've got in a small community, you have all
So
these
many people
friends,
I know.
and sometimes you don't want to work with a friend.
Right.
And that's hard,
Yeah.
because I know that the people I love and care for, I will bend over backwards to make sure they have the best real estate experience ever.
Right.
Because especially when they're my friend, I'm going to be seeing them at potlucks and family dinners and birthday parties. I want them to look me in the eye and say, Rachel, thank you so much. We had the best experience working with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want them to be like, oh no, Rachel's going to be there. We better not show up. I don't want to have to look at her. I don't want to have to tell
Yeah.
her that I hated what she did with that. No, I am even more motivated to work my tail off for my friends and family members,
Yeah.
and to give them the best experience possible. However, sometimes people are scared to work with their friends because they're afraid it's going to ruin the friendship.
Right.
And they're
Yeah.
too afraid to let their friends help them through that process. And I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that fear. And so having those conversations and putting those fears to rest is not easy. But, and at the end of the day, sometimes they will choose not to pick one friend because, hey, I can't pick one of my 5 friends who are real estate brokers because it's going to hurt 4 people's feelings.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say, we're going to hire somebody not affiliated with any of you whatsoever. And that's also frustrating, but we get it.
Yeah.
The 4 of us, the 5 of us, we're all going to go have coffee and cry about it. But, we're no, just joking. We're professionals. No.
Well, that sort of tailors into the next point I want to make, and ending on this one. You as a client listener are hiring a real estate professional who is representing you in a transaction that is a large business asset, and also a very an emotional process
Yes.
in that you're not selling just a bunch of stocks, you're selling memories in life and all of that. So know that who you end up working with should be a professional first, and then a friend second. Not
Yes.
that they can't also be your friend, of course, but to
They
your
need to be able to put the business hat
exactly
on
to
and
to
say,
your
we're going
point,
to talk
they need
business.
to be able to separate
Yep.
that, because their whole goal is to be able to fight for you on a negotiation table and be unbiased in that process. And so you need to trust that they are capable of putting that aside
Yes.
and fighting for your best interests in what you determine those are, because we, as you mentioned, Rachel, represent you, the client, in a fiduciary loyalty capacity that is totally based on what you want. Not and
Yes.
like you said, we'll give you great options. We'll give you the advice and the counsel you need to hear from the business perspective, but you get to choose at the end of the day.
You do.
The offer that comes on the table, if you want to fix this before you sell or not, or whatever the situation is, you get to choose. You're the client, right? So all we're doing is providing you with the best 3 options or whatever it comes down to. But you need to be able to trust that they can put their emotions behind and put their...
Which I can. I'm totally goofing off here.
Rachel's amazing at it. Yes, for sure. So the next point so now me as a client, Rachel,
yes.
I've worked with you for a while in an unofficial capacity. You've told me the value of my home. You've helped me out in multiple ways. It's okay for me to call you and text you and email you with questions about that stuff. And then we finally decided, great, now I'm ready to sell. I've signed a listing agreement with you. You're getting the ball rolling as you do. You just handle everything amazingly, and then bring me the offers. And I probably take my wife and kids and we go on vacation while you're gone so that you can have the house empty for showings or whatever the case is.
If the timing works well for that, that's great. If not, I've got a whole list of suggestions
You've got
of what
all sorts
to do.
of processes for that, yeah. And so whatever the situation, now the offers are here on the table. From a listing perspective now, we're wrapping up the listing conversation and seller's perspective. I've got offers on the table. Obviously, they all have their pros and cons. And some could be all cash and close really quick. Some could be financed and close a little bit longer. You're going to help me make the best decision in light of my unique circumstances.
Yeah.
When that's all said and done, and then through the process, which you're, again, negotiating and handling and taking point on and answering all my questions for, if there's ever a time where I feel like, I'm not really sure if that was the right call, or whatever the situation is, and I don't feel comfortable talking to you, can I, as a client, call another agent that I may know that's maybe a family member or someone else that I'm like, hey, I'm just not sure. I love Rachel. She did great. But I just had a question about this part of the process. Can I do that, one, legally and or ethically?
Well, the buyer and the sellers, you are my clients. You are not bound to the same laws that I am bound to. I would hope that you would not feel the need to ever reach out to another real estate broker. But I have had clients tell me later on, especially when I was a new agent, yeah, I was totally calling so-and-so's dad, who's been a real estate broker forever, and bouncing all sorts of stuff off of him. And then the coolest thing was they told me, and every single thing that they said, you had already said.
Nice.
So here, I was consistent with what a 20-year veteran real estate broker had also been saying.
Because you're awesome and
because
professional.
I'm awesome. No. And always professional.
Oh, that's true.
A goofball professional. But no. So there are situations where I get it. Sometimes a client might need a little bit extra. Just tell me we're doing this right, because it is nerve-wracking. I have also been the friend that people have called and had phone conversations with, and they've said, this is going on, this is going on. As a real estate professional who is not part of that contract, I have always told them, you need to talk to your agent about this.
Right.
I can't control what that agent would tell you if you call them.
Yeah.
They might make all sorts of confusion. They might make it very confusing and messy for you.
Yeah.
I can only control what I say. Legally, they cannot give you real estate advice.
Right.
They might still give you real estate advice. Legally, they shouldn't.
Yes, they might.
You are not the one who is breaking the law by reaching out as the client. However, you are putting this other person you like and care about in a potentially dangerous situation for their future career.
Yeah,
and liability.
Both people and the contract.
Exactly, the contract.
If you back out of the contract, that you may still owe compensation.
Exactly.
To you.
So I would say that if you are truly struggling with the advice your agent is telling you, if you need to bounce it off somebody, talk to your agent about bouncing it off either a managing broker in their firm or the designated broker of the firm. Like, hey, Rachel, I'm feeling a little conflicted about this. Also, you could reach out to a real estate attorney.
Yeah.
Annie Fitzsimmons or other Washington State real estate attorneys can actually advise you in areas I can't. There are certain levels of real estate that I am not legally allowed to advise you in.
Right.
I can advise you on the contract that we're writing to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But I am at a certain point, when you go too deep into certain avenues, there's some places there that I cannot advise you legally. It is outside the scope of my license. So that's when you bring a real estate attorney in and you give them a call. We've got different affiliates that we have worked with over the years, and we can help you get in contact with one of those attorneys that you could ask some questions to. They will charge a fee, more than likely. Also, Annie Fitzsimmons has prepared. She is Washington State's real estate attorney that's on retainer with the National Association of Realtors, NIPSAR, through Washington State. She has created all of these videos that touch on all sorts of real estate topics that I can share with you, my clients, to help you feel more comfortable with where we're at with things.
Yeah.
But if you still need additional real estate advice that's outside my scope, we can reach out to a real estate attorney and get you that solid, good feeling back.
Right.
It is a stressful process to sell your home, and there's not always one right answer to a situation. And sometimes you're going to wonder, did we make the right answer?
Right.
And at the end of the day, though, what matters most is that you are selling your property, you have sold your property, your end goals are met, and that you feel confident and happy with the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you made a bunch of great points there. A couple that I'll rehash here and underline for the listeners is one, you as the client, yes, you can reach out to another agent, but like you said, Rachel, the best option if you're having questions or doubts or just want to bounce another idea off is to go to that agent's managing broker, whoever's in charge of running that local firm and wherever the agent works, and or their designated broker, which is the owner of that. And after that, then, reach out to somebody else. But that would be the best way to do it ethically. And then the other aspect of that is for us as agents, as you mentioned, Rachel, we should always be, if we are professionals, and this should be a red flag for you clients, if you're calling another agent and they start to bad mouth or undermine that agent that you're already in a legal relationship with, that should be a red flag for you. And so about the agent you're talking to. So
yes,
just be cautious of that, not that we're not going to tell you the truth. If you call me, I'm going to give you advice and truth, but I'm going to tell you to go back to Rachel and bring that up with her and or her designated broker or managing broker. Because in this case, Rachel, you're a very approachable person. You imbue that in your character. People want to come to you anyway, whatever the situation is. But let's say you're a very hardline kind of person, and the agent, the client, is just a little nervous, and that happens all the time, and that's okay. Then I would say go to your managing broker. But
I would let your agent know though.
Yeah.
That you have some more questions and you would like to bounce some things off your managing broker and let them facilitate that conversation so things are not awkward when your managing broker calls up your agent and says, hey, your client just asked me this. What's going on?
Right.
Like, let them know you're planning to reach out to their boss and have a conversation.
At the end of the day, you can always fire your agent.
Yes.
And just like you can a doctor or a lawyer.
And the managing broker can help you facilitate that and
to
still
break
maintain.
off the contract and all of those things. So
or have somebody else take over it from there and,
Yep. At the end of the day, it's about this relationship. It's about helping solve the problem you're having, which is wanting to sell your property. So now, Rachel, I'm as a client, I've been through all of this. We're closing. It's the day of closing. I'm getting a big paycheck and giving away the keys to my property in theory and moving or doing whatever.
Yeah.
Is that the last I hear from you or should hear from you?
No. It all depends, though. If you're leaving the state because you're moving out of state, we will not be talking as often.
Okay.
It depends kind of on, hey, did we connect on a personal level?
Sure.
If we've connected on a personal as well as professional level, you're going to hear from me a whole lot more than you might from other brokers.
Yeah.
If we only connect on a professional level, you're going to hear from me when I have something to share with you. Like, hey, here is the final settlement statement that you can use, to take to your accountant and use some of these details in saving you money on your taxes next year when you sold your home.
Right. So then I may or may not hear from you, but I'm moving, and now obviously I've turned into a buyer. How can you help me?
Well, as in Washington State, since we are not separate buyers or listing agents, the wonderful thing is I work with buyers too. So if you're wanting to do the process of sell and buy, maybe even simultaneously, I can help you with both of those all at the same time.
Awesome.
I love working with buyers. I love working with sellers. They both have different areas of the real estate experience, and I love all of those avenues.
I love you all.
I know, I love all of them. Exactly.
What if I'm moving out of state?
If you're moving out of state, the wonderful thing, just like your shameless plug that you made earlier, is that we are matchmakers. You know, for Fiddler on the Roof fans, I am Yenta. Let me find you a match.
Yes.
And, you know, I love helping people create a bond with somebody in the area they're moving to. You are moving to an area potentially full of strangers where you don't know the local companies, you don't know the local neighborhoods, the reputations, or anything. Unfortunately, my license does not allow me to hop on the plane and go with you, though I wish it did. Seriously, there's some situations I wish I could just hop on the plane and go and spend a month trying to help my clients find the perfect home. However, it's a good thing I'm not licensed to hop on a plane and do that, because I wouldn't have any neighborhood knowledge for you. Right. I wouldn't have any lender knowledge. I wouldn't know what first thing about who to get for your home inspection. I would be looking on Google just like you. I would be useless for that. However, I am networked to real estate brokers all over the globe. One of the wonderful things I love about Coldwell Banker is that we are a global company. And so when I go to our large event once a year called Gen Blue, I get to meet and network with agents from all over the world. It's awesome. We build these relationships. So I will have a face-to-face communication with somebody potentially in the area that you're going to.
Right.
But I'm also networked to them through this large network, either through Facebook social media groups and also just our large directory. Yeah. So if you are moving to any place in the world, chances are I can find you a local Coldwell Banker agent there, and I will vet them for you. Yeah. I'm not just going to call the office and say, give me your first person. I'm going to look on their websites. I'm going to find the person who's in the local community to you. If for some reason there isn't a local Coldwell Banker branch, though, I'm going to take it a step further and start looking at what companies, what boutique real estate services, who is there in that community. Because having a local expert, just like it was everything for you when you were here in Washington with me, it is going to be everything when you move there to a place with no friends. Or maybe you do have a ton of friends, but they don't have real estate services. So, most of my buyers are going to places that they don't have the connections. They don't have family to lean on. They are alone and they're scared. They're nervous. They maybe have their military community to help them out a little bit, which is awesome. But a lot of the time, you're out of the military and you're heading to a place that you want to put your roots down because you like what that state has to offer.
Right.
So by setting you up and vetting and making sure that the real estate broker you're going to be potentially working with there is going to be the absolute best person for you I'm looking at personality matches. I'm looking at experience matches. Do you want somebody who's, has a pretty light load on their plate so that way we can actually work together really well, and you guys can have all her time and attention or all his time and attention. If you want somebody who is knowledgeable on the VA home loan programs and can know what lender to partner you with, that's huge too. Yeah. So I'm going to find the right person individually for you.
Right. So all of that said, I think this will wrap up our sellers episode here. The last thing is, as a seller, before you get ready to list your home, the most important thing is to note that it's okay to call Rachel. It's okay to call your agent or whoever you've been sent to and ask them all these questions. And one of the biggest things you want to find out is, what do I need to do to prepare for selling my home? And outside of the move and the logistics of that, there may be things that require maintenance upgrades, fixing of things, landscaping, and all of those. And someone like Rachel will be your go-to source, which again is free. It's all included in that relationship of compensation at the end of the sale. they're the ones reading through all these articles that say, here's the top 5 things you can do to increase your value. And some of those things are true in the national articles. Some of them are only relevant to, some places and not here. So whoever that agent is, they're going to be your best one-stop shop for all things as a good broker should be, to answer questions on referrals of handy people, for painters, for maintenance, for getting the most value, for what they need to do for your home to prepare your home for the sale. Some agents and some companies have programs that allow for that. I don't know. Does Coldwell have a program that allows you to the seller to borrow money against the sale of their home to fix it up ahead of time?
We do. We have just recently launched that program. It is still in its new phases.
Yeah.
But it's there.
Awesome.
It's exciting.
Yeah, so people,
awesome.
Rachel's got that. There's one at Compass called Concierge. There's a lot of different brokerages that have that kind of stuff that will allow you, if you don't have the money up front, great, this money will come in and fix that wall.
If
or
your
put
house
the
needs a new roof,
Yeah.
it's great for doing that, and then paying the contractors then.
Right.
But another thing that we walk you through is if our program couldn't fix something that, if it didn't match the criteria, if we weren't quite there and that wasn't needing to be done, having the right listing agent who can help contractors do the work ahead of time and get paid after closing. There's a lot of them willing to do that, and having a real estate broker who's connected to those local contractors.
So they can trust that they're going to get paid.
Exactly.
As they should.
As they should.
Yeah.
And to know that the numbers are there in the CMA, that you have enough buffer, that you're not so close to breaking even, you might not be able to afford to pay them.
Right.
So making sure that there's enough buffer of ability there.
Yeah, so there's a lot involved. It's worth it to do this, and hopefully that's helped sort of give you guys the overview picture of what's involved to sell a property, or when you want to sell a property in the United States. Anything else to add, or we move on to the
I think we're ready to move on.
All right, tune in next time for The Buyers. And as my kids would say,
thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Anna Vivo podcast. We welcome your feedback and ideas. You can learn more about us by simply Googling the word Anna Vivo. This podcast is supported by listeners like you. I am a licensed real estate broker with Compass Real Estate and a nationwide real estate matchmaker. We consult with you for free, find and vet the right real estate professional that specializes in the area and niche you need, are paid by that professional, and they get clients like yourself who want and need their unique specialty or winning track record. If you or someone you know is in the market to buy or sell real estate anywhere in the U.S., don't simply web search the highest paying advertiser. Let us use our licensed experience to find and vet the real and best professional for you. It costs you nothing but a phone call or email with me, and has saved my clients financially and emotionally. I'd be honored to serve, and you can reach me direct by email at tim.c.miller@outlook.com. And as always, to God be the glory.